Hi, I'm Amy Romeo and welcome to my Spring Fling crafting event where I'm sharing a brand new spring faux leather craft every day for 10 days. Today's project is this really cute flower purse. There are several little flowers that are layered faux leather on the flap of the purse, and I'll show you how to attach those using rivets. We'll also use some rivets to put the purse together in general. And then it closes with a little cam snap, and we have a double layered handle that I will teach you how to make as well. Now this SVG file is available in my shop, and I will leave a link to it for you if you want to craft along with me. Before we get started, let's talk about the tools and materials we'll be using to make this project. So I'll be using my Cricut Maker today, but you can use any of the Cricut Maker or any of the Cricut Explore machines to cut this pattern. If you're using the Cricut Joy Xtra, you can size the pattern down just a little bit to fit on your mat. Now I'll be using my purple strong grit mat today to cut the faux leather. And I'm going to be using some scraps of faux leather and then also one big sheet of 9" by 12" faux leather. This is from my favorite faux leather supplier, and I'll leave a link to it for you. Now, if you happen to have faux leather on rolls, where the roll is 12 inches wide, either from Amazon or again from my favorite supplier, then you'll be able to roll out a big piece of faux leather, put it on your mat, and then cut out all of the pattern pieces at once. So what I did with this one is I made the purse a solid faux leather, that peach, and then I used different prints for the flowers and also for the handle. So what I want to show you in today's demonstration is the opposite of that, just so you get an idea of different ways you can customize these. So I'm going to make the purse out of a print, and then I'll have the handle be a different print as an accent, and then we'll do the flowers in a solid color just to see how that looks. So as I mentioned, we'll be using rivets to put together the flowers and the little purse. Rivets are very easy to assemble just using a regular hammer you already have at home and some little tools that come with the rivets. I'll have links to all of these supplies for you, so don't worry about that. We'll also be using some blue painter's tape. This is going to help us get good cuts. You'll need a weeding tool of some kind and also some scissors. We will be using some glue toward the end. And I like Fabri-Tac, but you can use any craft or fabric glue that you like. And then we will be applying the Kam Snap, which is that finishing hardware, on the front of the purse. And for that, we need size 20 Kam Snaps and also the Kam Snap pliers. Again, I'll have links to all of these materials for you. So let's hop into Design Space. I'll show you the pattern. We'll cut out our pieces, and then I'll show you how to assemble this really cute little purse. Starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file for this project is saved on your device. Click on it to select it and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the shapes and then click Continue and then Upload. So let me zoom out for just a minute here so you can see the different shapes. So the biggest shape is going to be the base of your purse. And then this little small shape will be glued inside at the bottom of the purse to add some structure and shape. So I like to cut this piece and this piece from the same faux leather. Again, everything is up to you in this design. So as I mentioned, if you go with a solid base, you might want to have patterns for everything else. If you go with a pattern base, then you might want to have solids for everything else. So what you'll want to do is spend some time thinking about what materials and what prints you want to cut all these different shapes from. If you color them different colors in Design Space, then Design Space will put them on different mats for you, which will help you keep your mind clear on what you're cutting from what. So the first thing I want to do is ungroup everything so I can make my own color decisions here. So as I mentioned, I'm going to cut both of these straps here from a print, like a pretty little polka dot print. So I'm going to make both of those a color, say green. I know I'm going to cut my little purse is going to be a different green, so I'll just pick a different one. I'm also going to cut that bottom shape from that green. It doesn't matter what these colors are, and it will probably look terrible as you're doing this. This is just to have Cricut put the shapes on separate mats to help you when you're figuring out what prints and patterns you want to use. So since these are all going to be prints and patterns, I want all of my flowers to be a neutral light green. So I'm just going to make those a third green color. Let me just pick a color here. There we go. That's good. Okay, So now that I've done this, I know that Cricut will put these two shapes on one mat for me. Cricut will put these two shapes on another mat, and then all of my flowers will go on a third mat. So I'll click the Make It button. We're cutting our material on a mat. And the first thing we want to do is go through and mirror each of our mats here, because faux leather cuts in reverse. Then what you want to do is take a look at your shapes, probably drag them away from the edge of your mat just a little bit, and then make a note of what size faux leather you'll need to put down so that your shapes will cut out completely. So on this one here, I know that I need a piece of faux leather that's 12 inches long and about 3 inches wide to cut both of the straps. And then here for the purse, I have a piece of faux leather that's 9 inches by 12 inches. So I want to make sure that my pattern is within that 9 inch by 12 inch mark here. And you can always take some of these little shapes and see if you can sort of nestle them somewhere else, which it looks like I can't in this case. So I will need to put this over here by itself. So I'll have my 9 by 12 piece here, and then I'll have a little scrap here to cut that little flap. Then we have all of these flowers. So I'm just going to drag them around a little bit so that there's a little bit of room between them. And I can put one large piece of faux leather down to cut all of these little flowers. So now I have all of my little flowers set up, and I will cut a piece of solid faux leather that's a little over 7 inches wide and 5 inches tall. Now, if you're cutting all of your flowers from different prints and patterns, then you'll have them on separate mats, and you will do the same thing, basically figure out what size faux leather you need to cut your desired shapes. So I'm going to go back and click on the large purse piece because I like to cut that one first. Click Continue. I'm going to use the faux leather paper thin setting for all of these mats. If you don't have this bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. Keep in mind, if you're using the Explorer Air 2 machine, you'll need to turn your dial to custom before you can find this setting. So faux leather paper thin with more pressure. We're just using the regular fine point blade that comes with our machine. Now we're ready to hop back over to my overhead camera, and we will cut out all of our faux leather shapes, and then I'll show you how to assemble the purse. Okay, so I have my purple strong grip mat ready to go. Here's my piece of 9 inch by 12 inch faux leather. I'm going to turn that over pretty side down and place it on my purple strong grip mat right in the place that I saw my shape is going to cut. Then I have a little extra piece for that bottom part that I placed on my mat over here. So I'll put that down there, pretty side down. And then we're just going to take some blue painter's tape. We're going to tape these pieces down on all sides to help make sure that our faux leather does not shift while cutting. This is going to help us get really good cuts. Now you'll notice that there's nothing on the back of the faux leather, which means when you open up the little purse, this is what you'll see. Now if you wanted to put a lining on the inside, I recommend pressing heat transfer vinyl onto the back of your big piece of faux leather before you cut it. And if you want to see that in detail, go and watch the first video from my Spring Fling event, which is the little spring mini basket. Watch how I put heat transfer vinyl on the back of the faux leather for that project, and then you would just do the same thing on this piece. But we're going to skip that step. I have my faux leather paper thin cut setting with more pressure ready to go, so I'm just going to load my mat into the machine and we'll begin the cut. So our cut has run one time, and I always like to use a sharp weeding tool just to lift up the edge and make sure that the cut went all the way through. This one looks good. Now if you're lifting up your edge and it doesn't look like it's a clean cut, it looks like it's still pulling down onto your mat, then you can rerun your cut. You can rerun it as many times as you need to, as long as you haven't unloaded your mat. So to rerun your cut, you would just press the cut button again. It'll pull the mat back in and just repeat the cut. But these shapes look pretty good. So I'm going to unload my mat and remove my shapes. Now this pattern has a lot of little holes. So what you'll want to do is take your sharp weeding tool. I like to use my weeding hook for this and just go through, take a little bit of time and poke through all of these holes. Now if your hole didn't quite cut all the way through, then you can use some curved scissors or embroidery scissors and just snip off the opening. These holes do not have to be perfect. They just have to be big enough or a little tiny hole to be able to push the post through. So don't stress if your holes are not all the way perfect. So just go through and poke all of those holes out. If you have any little fuzzies on the edge of your faux leather, it's a good time to trim them up with some curved scissors as well. Okay, so now I'm going to hop back into Design Space, and I'm going to cut out my 2 other faux leather mats. Then I'll have all of my pieces here on my work surface, and I'll show you how to assemble the Kam Snaps and then how to use the rivets to attach the flowers and finish off the purse. Okay, so I have all of my little shapes cut out. The handles, I have all of my little holes poked through, and then I have all of the little flowers cut out. All of the holes are poked through, and again, just check the edges for any little fuzzies that you might need to trim up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is glue our handle so that it can start drying nice and flat. So all I'm going to do is take my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to apply a layer of glue, thin layer. You want to make sure you go around those holes and then all the way down. Get close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge, so that when you press this down underneath your heavy book that I have here, then that's going to help push that glue out to the edge and you'll get a really nice, almost seamless edge finish. So glue all over. We will use the glue one more time, so don't set it too far away. I'm just going to lay the other piece of the handle on top of the piece with all the glue. Just spend a minute sort of with your fingers adjusting it. Make sure the holes line up. Your edges are nice and neat, because this will be the finished handle on your little purse. There we go, that looks pretty good. So you can see when it just has glue, there's still a big gap all along the edge. Do you see that? But when you press this underneath your heavy book and let it dry, ideally I would let it dry for about an hour. I probably won't have an hour, but I would let it dry for an hour before you start picking it up and messing around with it. Let me find one more heavy thing to put on the end here. There we go. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, we're going to apply the Kam Snaps, which are the snap closure for our little mini purse, so that we do that now and we're done with it and it's out of the way. So these are size 20 Kam Snaps. I use these a lot in my videos, so you might already have these. They need special Kam Snap pliers, and I bought a set that had this whole assortment and the pliers. So check my supply list links for that. Now I like this little handy guide that came with my Kam Snap box, and it shows you the different pieces that we need to get from this little box to create one snap. So we're going to need a cap piece, a stud. It's a piece that has little bumps. We need a socket piece, and then we need another cap. So I like to start by going through my box, finding those 4 pieces, and then laying them out on my work surface here. So this is a pretty busy little pattern, and I think I'm just going to go with some off-white. So I'm going to find all my little pieces and lay them here on my table. So on the front of our little purse pattern here, when you look at the flap, there's lots of holes. This bottom center hole is going to be the hole where your snap goes. If you need to double check that, then fold up the front of your purse, and then you'll see that those holes line up. So this hole here on this front flap is going to be one of the Kam Snaps, and this is going to be the other one. Okay, so the way we're going to get started is on the front here, the front flap, we're going to take one of our caps and we're going to place it so you can see the cap on the pretty side of your faux leather. Then we'll flip it over and we're going to put the first piece, which is called the stud. So the stud has like a part that pokes out, and the back has a bunch of little bumps. So the little bumps are going to go down, and kind of hold both of those together with your fingers. Now we're going to take our Kam Snap pliers, and the black part of the Kam Snap pliers has a very large circle in it, and that circle goes over the cap. And when you do it right, then the cap is completely enclosed in that black piece and you don't see it. Now when you do that, then generally this piece lines up as well. This piece is going to hold either your stud or your socket, and then all you need to do is squeeze. So now we have our front part of our little flap is done. Now we're going to go and do this one. So for this one, we want to put the cap on the inside now. So the cap goes on the back of the faux leather. And on the other side is where we're going to put the socket. So the socket is a little piece that is going to accept the stud. So again, hold it with your fingers. You might need to move it around a little. The black part of the KamSnap pliers always goes over the cap. Now you'll notice that my faux leather has to bend to get my pliers down to the cap. Don't worry about that, that's totally fine. Just make sure that your cap is completely covered by the black part, and then this part will be lined up correctly too, and squeeze. Okay, so let's test out our little snap. There we go, perfect. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to put all of our little flowers on the front of our little flap here. And the way we're going to do that is with our rivets. So the rivets, the ones I'm using are 6mm size. I'll link to them for you. And they come with these two little tools in the bag. So one is a strike plate. It has a flat surface. And then this is a little plastic tool. Yours might be metal. One end is flat, and we're going to hit the flat end with our hammer. The other end is curved or concave, and that end is going to sit on top of the head of the rivet. And we use this because if you just hit the rivet with the head of a hammer, it would damage the pretty little end of the rivet, that pretty smooth surface. But this little rounded cap protects the rivet when it's hammered, and it still makes it a secure connection. Okay. So we've got our little flowers. We're going to make a little stack here with our flowers, a large flower on the bottom, a medium flower, and then a small flower. And so you should have 5 of these little stacks. We're going to take one of our rivets. So the rivet looks like a nail, has a pretty shiny nail head that I was mentioning. And then you have the other piece that's just the nail head. So we're going to take the piece that looks like a post first. Pick any one of these little holes down here, these 5 holes. Push the post up through the hole. Then you're going to put your little flower stack here and arrange your little flowers how you want them to be, because once we hammer this down, you won't be able to move them. So I've kind of stacked them up so all the petals line up. You could turn the petals if you wanted to. Now we're going to take the little cap and we're just going to pop it onto the post, and you'll hear it snap. So what I like to do is do all 5 of the flowers like this before I hammer them down, and that way I can twist them and turn them to get them the way I want before I hammer them into place. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so all of my little flowers are just in place by squeezing the rivets together, which will hold them enough in place, and then we'll just kind of twist them, get all the little flowers going the way you want them to. Okay, and then we're going to place this flat on our work surface. Take your little strike plate and locate it underneath one of the rivets. So I'm going to do this top little flower first. Then I'm going to take my little hammering piece here, put the curved edge on top of the rivet, and then with my hammer I'm just going to hammer maybe 5 to 10 times. And what that's going to do is push that rivet down, make it nice and tight on the back here. You can see these all are still loose, but this one's nice and tight. And what's fun about that is it creates the center of the flower, and it also gives a little bit of lift to the petals, which is really fun. So now I'm just going to go through and hammer down all of these little flowers. There we go. So you can see our little flowers are not moving, but the petals do have some lift and dimension, which is really nice. Okay, so now I'm going to be right back. We're going to finish assembling our little purse by attaching more rivets and also attaching the handle. Okay, so our next step is going to be to attach the handle. And the reason we're attaching the handle now is because once we fold up and assemble the purse, we won't be able to access the little holes for the handle. So we're going to do it now. So let me show you where they are. If you're looking at the bottom flap here of your little purse, there's a row of 2 holes here on the top. This row of 3, that's all going to fold around to the back. So it's none of these holes, it's just this one right here. Now if you want to, you can flip this over on the other side and maybe color with a little marker or whatever, just to kind of let yourself know those are the holes. So it's these 2 right here. And we're going to take our glued handle, fold this up a little bit. So let me give you kind of a visual of how this is going to go. This is where our handle is going to be on the side. So what I did on this one is I did a cute little flower first and then the handle. So we have our extra little flowers here. So let's take a post, a rivet post. Let's put it up through that handle hole. So not this row, this one right here. So now this is the outside of our handle. We're going to put our handle strap on. Just like that. Then we're going to put one of our cute little flowers. And then we're going to cover the rivet post with the little cap. Snap it shut. Okay, so see how that is? Now what we're going to do is do the same thing on the other side here. So I know it looks weird right now, but once the sides fold over, it's going to look completely normal. Okay, so we're going to take our little strap, come over here, find that same hole. Let's take our post, push it through the back of the hole, put our handle on, then our flower, and a little rivet cap. Okay, so just like before, we're going to want to make sure that our little flowers are lined up the way we want and everything looks cute before we hammer these down. So we'll just take our little strike plate again, put it underneath here. Make sure my handle is pointing straight up and my little flower is where I want it. And then I'm just going to cover the rivet and hammer. Again, as that rivet comes down, the little petal lifts up, which is really cute. We'll just do that on the other side. Okay, so if you've been following along, you should have your handle in place and you should have all your little flower rivets and you should have your cam snap closure. So the last thing to do is to fold up and assemble the purse. Now we're going to use more rivets for this, and I have 2 pieces of blue painter's tape here to help me tape the rivets in place temporarily so that as I'm folding the purse, I don't lose my little rivets and they don't pop out. So let me show you what we're going to do next. So let's pretend like we're folding up our little purse here. So our flap is here. Put your flap at the top, your handle's at the bottom. We're going to roll this up a little bit. See this little flap here on the end? We're going to push the flap up. Then we're going to take the back flap, kind of fold it in. Okay, so the side flap is pushed up. The black curved flap comes in. And then the flap with the holes wraps around to the back. And then we're going to line up those little holes. Okay, so that's the motion that we're going to do. Now that I've showed you that, I want to go back and I want to put my little rivet post right here in this row of 3. So I'm going to go from the back, push 3 of my posts through. These 3, I'm going to put my blue tape here, just temporarily to keep them in place. And I'm actually going to go and do the other side just while they're easy to access. And just tape right over those nail heads there. Okay, so when we flip it over, your little purse should have the post sticking up here on the back of the purse. Okay, so now we're going to repeat that motion where we took, let me get my little caps here. We're going to repeat the motion when we take the side flap, push it up. The back flap comes in, and then this flap with the holes comes around. And now when it comes around, we're going to pop those holes right onto the posts that are sticking up in the back of the purse. See that? I think I'm going to grab one more piece of blue tape and just tape it down right here real quick. Now, if you're taping like I am, you want to make sure that your tape is well away from your rivets. You don't want the rivet cap to end up sitting on top of your blue tape. Okay, so here's the side of our little purse. Those holes just came around and wrapped over those posts. Okay, easy peasy. Now what we're going to do is take our little snaps, our little covers here on the rivets, pop those rivets on. Now once you pop the rivets on, this piece is not going to come loose. Okay, so now we can go and do the other side. Pop up the side flap, bring the rounded flap down, and then our row of holes comes over and slides onto those posts that are sticking up. I'll just tape down again. Snap on our little caps, little rivet caps here. There we go. Now the only thing that's left to do is to hammer down these little rivets. So I'm going to take my strike plate, I'm going to slide this in, slide it in the purse so I get it underneath where one of these little rivets are. Okay, you'll have to mash your purse down a little bit. We'll cover with our little hammer piece here and hammer. And then you'll get that nice and flat, that little back rivet. See that? See the difference between that one and these ones? So now I'm just going to go through and hammer down all of the back rivets. So once I've hammered all of the rivets in place, I'm just going to remove my tape here and also remove the tape on the inside. And the very last step is to apply some glue to the inside of the purse. So I like to do glue in two places. One, I like to glue these flaps to the side, and then I like to glue this to the bottom. So there isn't really an exact science to this. I just kind of squeeze some glue down here where this flap is, fold it up. Now as you're doing this, kind of watch the bottom corner here, because this little side flap dictates what this little corner looks like. So you want to just make sure that both your little corners match. Okay, so once we have the two side flaps glued, then we're just going to put some glue. You either put glue on the back of this and hope, squish it in there, hope for the best, or you can just put some glue on the bottom here, which I think is what I'm going to do. You don't need too much glue. As you press it down, it's going to move around. And this piece, you know, it just makes your purse a little sturdier, and it gives it that nice little flat bottom. Makes it look super cute. Okay, so now we've got the bottom inside there. And that is that. Let me close it up with our little snap. And there's our little purse. So this one we made with patterned faux leather primarily, and then solid color flowers. And then this one we did the opposite, where we have our solid base and then all of our pattern flowers. So let me know in the comments if you're going to make this little purse, and if so, which version you're going to make, the mostly solid one or the mostly patterned one. I would love to know. So I really hope you enjoyed this project. This is a really fun one, and I'm super excited for you to make this, and hopefully you will share your pretty little mini purses with me. I would love to see them. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.